right, hello everyone. My apologies for the late start. We unfortunately had a massive distributed denial of service attack against our servers. As this massive attack illustrates, there's a lot of opposition to people just hearing what President Trump has to say.
Congratulations, because I see you broke every record in the book with so many millions of people, and it's an honor. We view that as an honor. And then you do want silencing of certain voices. Usually those are voices that have something to say that are constructive.
We don't know what was wrong with Trump's voice there or for the entire 2-hour conversation, but Elon Musk's highly anticipated Twitter space, X space, whatever you call it, with Trump got off on the wrong foot yesterday after multiple technical delays, glitches, and crashes. The event, which was supposed to start at 8 p.m. Eastern, was delayed over 30 minutes due to social media users unable to gain access to the space. Here you can see some of them. Anyone else not able to listen says unavailable. This is gonna break the internet. Space, unavailable, it's not working for me. Some were able to gain access, however, but were forced to listen to lo-fi techno music for the next 30 minutes, which is definitely worse.
Hey, don't scroll away. Come back. Because before the video continues, we just want to urge you to lend your support to TYT. You power our honest reporting. You do it at tyt.com/team, and we love you for it.
18 minutes into the delay, Musk, who had been promoting the event heavily on the site, as Trump's triumphant return to the platform, then gave a bizarre reason for the snafu, posting, "There appears to be a massive DDoS attack on X, working on shutting it down. Worst case, we will proceed with a smaller number of live listeners and post the conversation later." For those unfamiliar, DDoS stands for Distributed Denial of Service and is comparable to an online traffic jam, according to Mediaite. In a DDoS attack, hackers use multiple computers to flood a website or online platform with an overwhelming amount of traffic, overloading the servers and making it slow or unresponsive for legitimate users, or even making it crash completely so they cannot access it at all. However, he gave zero evidence for the attack, which sparked concern over the validity of Musk's claim. In general, a DDoS attack is an assault on the entire website, not on one specific user, or as Musk claimed in this case, one specific space hosted by one user with one other user as a speaker. It might be more plausible if the entire Twitter X website had technical difficulties or if the entire space functionally went down, according to Mediaite. Elon did give follow-ups to make it sound like he was trying, tweeting things like, "We tested the system with 8 million concurrent listeners earlier today." I don't know how you even do that, how you test something with 8 million concurrent listeners without having 8 million people test it. Does he have 8 million bots in a farm sitting there ready to test his own site's capacity? Seems on its face implausible. However, according to X, there were only 915,000 people listening to the space when it actually started. Apparently this is all just a BS excuse, it seems, on Musk's part. A source at X confirmed to The Verge that there wasn't actually a denial of service attack. Another X staffer said there was a 99% chance Musk was lying about an attack.
But only 99%.
Yeah, and that's a staffer at his company. But that doesn't mean there weren't other issues, according to Axios' Sarah Fisher. Take a listen.
Elon Musk is claiming that there was some sort of technical problem at the beginning of this. What do we know?
And now you have reports out from The Verge, a tech company, a tech media company, saying that sources said it's not actually a DDoS, a denial of service attack. It was just that the systems were overwhelmed. You know, it's hard. X has become a black box in terms of communication. What Elon Musk says oftentimes is what goes, but oftentimes these things can look very similar, Jim. A DDoS attack is overwhelming a system to shut it down. It could have very well been that a lot of people wanted to listen to this interview, which overwhelmed the system and shut it down. Either way, as you mentioned at the top of your remarks, it's an embarrassment for Musk. They're trying to make this the video platform of choice, but they can't get a live stream up and running.
Yeah, I mean, that's the question. Cenk, what are your thoughts here mid-story?
Yeah, so look, if he were honest about it, it's not the end of the world. And there, I think, is a real reason that this happened. So sometimes we have a similar issue on big nights. A lot of people watch at the same time, and then our website struggles with it, and it drives me crazy too. And I get it, but and sometimes, by the way, there's actual DDoS attacks, whether it's on us, X, or other places. In this case, you can tell that the staffer at X is telling the truth rather than Elon Musk, other than the fact that they probably have inside information on it, but because it really affects the whole website, it really does. So I've never heard of a denial of service attack on a specific page or a specific interview or a specific post. So that is very unlikely. So, and this type of thing happens when you fire 3/4 of your employees, which is what Elon Musk did when he got into Twitter, and then he bragged about it. And in fact, they talked about it in the interview. We're going to talk about that later in the show about, you fired a lot of people. Oh yeah, high five, high five. Firing people is awesome. And so, guys, these companies need real people to work. I mean, that's why we ask you guys to help us become a member, et cetera, all that stuff, because there's a ton of people that work behind the scenes that make this show happen. Obviously, even more true of a much larger site like X. And so the way that he disrespected everybody, like he didn't need those employees, you only need the people at the top. Well, it turns out, no, you need all your employees. And by the way, you want to do downsizing because you don't have a choice. I totally get it, okay? It sucks, but I get it. But this wasn't normal, firing 75% of your employees. So you shouldn't be overly surprised that a lot of your company doesn't work. The advertising department also is in total disarray and can't sell anything and doesn't know what it's, and it's because they don't have enough people. They're overwhelmed, right? I'm not shedding a tear on their advertising department, but yeah, this is what happens when folks can't put things together because there aren't enough of them. So look, I think that can it work if they can get it to work? And that's a funny thing to say, right? But what I mean by that is, can this X space kind of interviews work if they could just get it to function? Yes. Look, even in a non-functional interview, I think by the end they got to 1.1 or 1.3 million people that had at least watched some of it. These social media companies have the opportunity to have massive impact. They just can't quite get it right at X. And again, it's because they don't have enough people working there. And it's not I want you guys to understand the frustration that I have in regards to how most of the companies in America work. And the pressure that they get usually from shareholders, and Wall Street, et cetera. In this case, it's private, so Elon Musk is making these decisions on his own. But normally they think the answer is always fire people, just cut costs. And Meta, which owns Facebook, was greatly rewarded by the stock market when they fired a whole bunch of people. In fact, the reason I'm telling you that is because when Elon Musk fired 75% of his employees and the company didn't crater overnight, Wall Street got the idea, you can fire as many employees as you want. You can go down to zero, it doesn't matter. These are all expendable, useless people that don't do anything. Just fire all your employees. Well, look, this is why it doesn't freaking work. And by the way, and that's why I bring up, if you actually had functioning staff there, I think actually the content could work spectacularly there. They just can't get it right. And so I think that's a huge source of frustration, I'm sure, for him, which ironically probably, Ben, led him to firing more people.
Yeah, probably. I would be a little worried if you're working there today. And of course, this isn't the first time that they've had a major issue during one of these high profile interviews. He definitely got, like Cenk said, a lot of people to come to the platform for this event, but it made a lot of people question their ability to even handle such high profile events, reminding so many of us of last year's failed live event with Ron DeSantis launching his failed campaign. Take a listen to this.
Governor DeSantis first drew my attention and support when I saw how he responded to the COVID pandemic and refused to believe what we now know to be the many falsehoods that government experts and their media mouthpieces were feeding us. He kept Florida's schools open and its economy thriving, while my state of California chose 2 years of learning loss and lockdowns that we have yet to fully.
All right, we're just reallocating more server capability to be able to handle the load here. It's really going crazy. So, yeah, I'm obviously very excited to have Governor DeSantis.
So there you have it. Not only was that not very successful, two of the people there who were able to tune in were our producer Taylor and Cenk's cousin. So I mean, that's not a broad swath of the population, if you saw those profile pictures there. At the time, the Trump campaign railed on DeSantis for the technical difficulties, which Kamala Harris's campaign pointed out on their Truth Social account, retruthing his own post from May 24th of 2023, saying right there, Trump posting, wow, the DeSantis Twitter launch is a disaster. His whole campaign will be a disaster, watch. So if that's the barometer, does not bode well for Trump's campaign themselves. White House Deputy Press Secretary Andrew Bates also retweeted a Team Trump post that had attacked DeSantis, saying failure to launch and showing a rocket misfiring and hitting the ground. You can take a look at that right there. Yeah. And he put well done, he added well done to that. So what goes around comes around. So many of Trump's statements that initially just knee-jerk attack people for things they do not control comes back to bite him. It's very similar, reminds me of when Trump made statements saying if you're under indictment, you should be disqualified for president. If you're convicted, you should be disqualified for running for president. And then he has that same thing, that same problem. Or when he just the other day said that Kamala Harris should be disqualified because of her exaggerating her crowd sizes with photos that turns out were not exaggerated. Yet Trump literally does exactly that all of the time and started his lauded presidency with heavy sarcasm that exact same way, with obviously disproved images of crowd sizes.
Yeah, so I hope that SpaceX doesn't have the same glitches that X Space has. Because he literally has SpaceX and X Space.
True, good point.
Right, so now, by the way, nephew, not cousin. But I did like how TYT dominated that little Ron DeSantis original interview that was to be, but was only partially actually happened. Anyways, last thing here has nothing to do with any of this. It's how Trump was talking. Now, lisp happens to some people, stutter happens to some people, so Biden's got a little bit of a stutter, but that wasn't really what his issue was, obviously, in this campaign. But Trump doesn't normally have a lisp. So what was that? Was that dentures falling out?
That's what I think it is, because I grew up with a severe speech problem, a stutter. I still have a little bit of a lisp right now. It's not, Chelsea Handler used to make fun of me for it on the air all the time. We each got what we got, but I've always thought that that's part of why Trump sometimes he sounds a little slurry occasionally.
Yeah.
But this was next level. He must have had, I don't know why during that 30-minute delay he couldn't have had someone on his team go and buy some denture cream. But I think he must have dentures. He can't let people know that because it would make him look weak and old. And they were just falling out and probably were loose the whole 2 hours. I mean, his voice sounded completely different. I would have thought it was a bad impersonator.
Yeah, and I remember when he was president, he got stuck on saying oranges instead of origins, right? And he said it like 2-3 times and he couldn't get out of it. But I couldn't tell if it was like a denture issue and it happens to him every once in a while. And guys, by the way, people have dentures and they fall out sometimes. So what? It's not that big a deal. Trump makes it a big deal by over-focusing on it, just like Ben said, because he thinks it's a sign of weakness and being old. It's not a sign of weakness. Yeah, it is a little bit of a sign of getting older, but that's no big deal as long as you're mentally competent. That's the real problem for Donald Trump. Like if you begin to realize how old he is, you might begin to listen to his speeches and go, what did he say? That sounds crazy. But remember, I don't think that's because of his age. I think that's because he was already crazy.
But he would probably seem a little bit less Rambo tough like his MAGA devotees would think he is if you take away the weird hairdo, the orange makeup, and the teeth.
Yeah.
Suddenly he's a man walking down a ramp very slowly who has issues drinking water.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's why he spent so much time on his orange bronzer and his orange hair. And like that's why he always wears the MAGA hat if his hair is not right, because he never wants you to see his hair out of place, his teeth out of place, his bronzer out of place. And so the guy is super vain. And by the way, I get it. Look, you're running for president and looks have some part to play, and obviously the Nixon JFK debate when it was first people heard it on the radio, thought Nixon won. People saw it on TV, thought JFK won, and that's because Nixon's ugly, both inside and outside.
And was sweating a lot.
Yeah. So I understand that it's part of politics. At the same time, Trump's been obsessed with his vanity for a long, long time. And that's the actual story. And all the things he's done for his vanity, like, I didn't lose. Let's come up with fake electors and do a coup.
Right. And the looks of everybody else. I think you should hold yourself to a higher standard, except when somebody who is a malintended actor brings things into play. You should at least turnabout be fair play on that and be able to throw those exact things back in their face. If you're gonna make looks an issue, your own looks is an issue then.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so failure to launch there again on X. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.